Okay, hello there everyone. So, welcome to today's video presentation on the hero cycle. Now, before we begin, I just want to make it clear that this isn't a detailed explanation or a detailed lesson on the topic. Rather, it's just an overview of what the hero cycle is and what it entails. It basically allows you to get a brief understanding of how it works and what is involved within the hero cycle, and this should hopefully help you in your studies further down the line. So, without further ado, let's get cracking. Now, the hero cycle, or hero journey, as you can see on the slide, is a paradigm. Now, what is a paradigm? Well, a paradigm basically means it acts as an example. The hero cycle is a physical and a psychological experience, and it's applicable to many different situations. A point I have to make is that not all hero journeys are the same, and not all hero journeys will follow this example exactly. Some will be different, some will be the same, some will be slightly different. It doesn't really matter. They all follow a similar path, but not an identical one. So what we're looking at right now is an overview of the hero cycle. As you can see, it basically follows a journey. It's a circular process. It starts with the call to adventure, and then it continues all the way around to the abyss, then comes back again to the return of the gift of the goddess. Now, when we briefly look at this slide, we can see that essentially the hero's journey is divided into two separate sections. One is the known section at the top of the circle, and the other is the unknown section, which is the large bit at the bottom of the circle. Now, when we talk about known and unknown, we are talking about what the hero knows and what the hero doesn't know. In other words, known refers to what the hero is familiar with, his home, and the unknown refers to what the hero is not familiar with, his journey. The journey starts at the threshold itself, and that is the line that divides known and unknown. In other words, the threshold is the division line between what the hero knows and what the hero doesn't know. At the top of the journey, we have the hero's home, and the whole point of the journey is that he leaves, goes on the journey, and then returns back to where he started from with a gift or with something that gives him an advantage. So, let's see how this journey plays. Firstly, the hero starts in the ordinary world. If you remember, this is the top of the circle. This is the hero's home. This is where he is safe, where he feels comfortable, and this is where he must leave from and where he hopes to return to. The purpose of the ordinary world is to show us what the hero's drives, his urges, and his problems may be, and it also presents us with the problem. The problem is something which disrupts the hero's comfort in the ordinary world, and it's what drives him to leave in the first place. This problem can take any form. In the case of Batman, for example, it would be his parents being killed. In the case of Harry Potter, it would be the fact that he has magical abilities and that he feels uncomfortable in the situation he's in right now. Every hero has their own problem, and every hero has to try and find a way to solve this problem. So once the hero is at home, he hears something called the call to adventure. Now, the call to adventure is a problem that the hero faces at home. It's a problem which needs solving, and it's a problem which may affect only the hero, or it may affect the hero and everyone else around him as well. You can often identify the call to adventure by the first time the hero meets the problem. It would be when Harry Potter suddenly realizes that he's been invited to Hogwarts. He receives a letter. It could be when Iron Man suddenly realizes that he has to escape his captivity. This would be his call to adventure, and every hero heeds their own call to adventure. Those of you familiar with The Lord of the Rings could associate it with Frodo having to take the ring back to Mordor. He is assigned the call by Gandalf himself. Speaking of assigning the call is often delivered by the herald archetype. Now, we're going to talk more about who these archetypes are, but in summary, the herald is the character who calls the hero on his adventure. The call isn't necessarily delivered by a specific character. It might be an action, an issue, or a problem that the hero observes in his reality. Now, it is normal in these situations for the hero to refuse the call. He often feels that he isn't ready to take part in this journey. And because of this, he often refuses to go on the call. He usually prefers to stay safe at home. The refusal demonstrates the risk of the journey, and every time he heeds the call and refuses it, the task becomes harder and harder and harder. In other words, the refusal of the call is actually a part of the journey itself. At this point, he would probably meet the mentor. Now, the mentor is usually some older character who provides guidance for the hero, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a character. In the classic example of Star Wars, the mentor is represented by Obi-Wan to Luke Skywalker. He would be Luke's mentor. But if you take the example of Iron Man, then his mentor could perhaps be Jarvis, who actually lives inside his own helmet. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an individual. It could be a voice inside the hero's head, someone who gives him guidance and provides him with a direction with which to take on the path. So the mentor provides the guidance for... Now, with the mentor, the hero has finally decided that he's going to go on the journey, but first he must be tested. In order to cross the threshold, he must face some kind of challenge, and because by crossing the threshold, he goes from the known world to the unknown world, or he goes from home to his journey. Now, the point must be made here that once the hero has crossed the threshold, which separates home from journey, he will not be able to return back to his homeland until the journey is complete. Once he has crossed the threshold, the hero starts to learn the rules of being a hero. He must learn who he can trust, who he cannot trust, and he will also face various challenges and enemies. These enemies serve the purpose of strengthening the hero and helping him to proceed even further on his journey. Each enemy or each challenge is a test, and by defeating each test, he becomes stronger as a hero and he becomes better equipped to help the world as a hero. So as he proceeds on his journeys, the hero starts to approach the abyss. Now, the abyss is the hero's ultimate enemy, and so far he has defeated all enemies, or he has overcome all challenges, but the abyss is a challenge which has been designed specifically for the hero. It is his ultimate enemy and usually takes the form of the antagonist of the story. Again, to quote common literature, the abyss could take the form of facing Darth Vader for Luke Skywalker, facing Voldemort for Harry Potter, or any other form of character you care to think of. However, before the character faces his abyss, he usually has a moment of respite, or he usually has a moment to take a break to rest and regather his strength. Finally, the hero faces the abyss. Now, the abyss is the central life or death battle within the story, and during this time the hero must face his greatest fear, and in essence he dies. Now, of course, we don't mean that literally the hero dies. Usually he passes out, but it's a well-known scene whereby the hero seems to have been beaten, and then at the last minute, pulling on some inner strength, he rises up again with some new power, able to defeat his opponent. This is a classic scene that we see in literature throughout, of the antagonist laughing evilly whilst the hero slowly collapses. We are led to believe that the hero is going to be destroyed, only when at the last minute he rises up again, ready to face his opponent. Thus, through his resurrection, he is returned home. He is reborn or transformed, and thus this proves him to be a hero. Through this resurrection, the hero receives a reward. It is the process of death and resurrection which allows the hero to receive this reward, and it comes in many forms. He could receive some new power, some new knowledge, some new weapon, a magical sword, a different lightsaber, a special wand. And what this does is it allows the hero to replenish himself, and it allows us as the audience to also understand the purpose, to catch our breath. The hero then starts the journey back to the ordinary world, to his home, and like when he was crossing the threshold, the hero requires an event to help push him over back into his homeland. He heeds the call that he is needed back home, and with his new gift, he is able to help back home. Thus, he starts to slowly. He returns with the gift. On his journey back home, he takes the gift with him and helps all those around him. This gift and the hero's return provides harmony and balance of the world, and thus the hero cycle is complete. The hero has returned to where he was originally starting off from,